let's find a comfortable meditation posture. And by that, I mean upright, if you're sitting upright, and alert, but not rigid. Relaxed, and you're not slouching, but you're letting your back fall into its natural curve. If you're lying down, some people like to meditate lying down. I suggest that you hold your arms out at a 90-degree angle. That way, if you fall asleep, your arms will fall to your sides and you'll wake up. You might want to rock back and forth and forward and back just a little bit until to help your body find a centered place. And gently close your eyes. You may notice that there's a mockingbird right outside my window. That's just part of the mindful awareness. And notice the touch points. Notice where your feet are touching the floor and what that feels like. And notice your bottom on the seat and the feeling of your hands resting in your lap. And just settling into your body. And let's take a few slow, deep breaths. A slow, deep inhale, about 3/4. And a long, slow exhale. And as you exhale, just relax your body to whatever degree you can. Long, slow, deep breath in. Long, slow exhale out. And let your breathing return to normal. Just sitting with your eyes closed. Breathing in and out. And as you exhale, continue to soften and relax the muscles in your face. Your face does a lot of work. And relax the muscles around your eyes, your forehead, your jaw. Let your belly soften, just hang. We spend a lot of our time holding our belly in. This is a soft belly. And to the degree that you can, start to relax the thinking muscle. You can let your thoughts go quiet. You can't make your thoughts go quiet. The mind has this function that it just wanders around in thought. That's okay. But just give it permission to settle. Like sediment settling at the bottom of a clear lake. With each breath out, the sediment settles a little more. The water becomes a little more clear. And let your attention come to your breathing. And rest your awareness and your focus on your breathing. For some people, it's easier to focus on the breath going in and out of your nose. For some people, it's easier to focus on the feeling of your chest moving up and down or your belly. Whatever works for you. If your mind wanders off, which it will, because it does, that's okay. Just bring it back and start again. Firmly, but gently. This is a gentleness practice. You cannot do this wrong. The doing it is the doing it. Just let your awareness and your attention rest on the bodily sensations of breathing in and out. The rhythm of your breath, like a gentle massage. If your mind wanders off in thought, that's okay. Just notice it without getting wrapped up in the content of whatever you're thinking. It's not going to resolve itself anyway. So just note thinking and come back to the anchor in your breathing. If you notice anything else, birds chirping, noise in the house, that's okay. Just note it, hearing. There are no interruptions in meditation, everything in the field of awareness. Just notice. Thoughts come, thoughts go. It's all okay. Just notice them coming and going. Like a breeze through an open door in and out. Just breathing in and breathing out. Letting your thoughts come and go. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, I invite you to notice your experience of the present moment. And whatever calm or benefit or stillness you may have gotten from this meditation. Just to let that sink into your heart. And with the benefit of this practice, this meditation, open you to kindness, to seeing the world through kind eyes, through compassion. And that whatever calm or benefit you've gotten from this sitting, radiate out into your household, out into your block, out into your neighborhood. May it be that whatever benefit that we have gotten from this practice express itself through our interactions with the people we encounter today and in days going down the road. And may it be that the benefits and fruits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice. You may have, or may not, have been aware of the rather persistent bird right outside my window. People who come back to me and say they can't meditate because they can't find a quiet place. You don't really need that. I've traveled in India twice, and both times to Bodh Gaya, which is really the seat of Buddhism, where on the side where Buddha was enlightened. India is a loud place. In fact, legally, if you get into a car accident in India, and it can be demonstrated that you were not blowing your horn at the time, it is automatically your fault. So you are never, ever out of earsight of car, out of hearing range of horns. And no matter how far you get into the Mahabodhi temple ground, it's a very large temple ground, you're going to hear it all, along with the sounds of occasional elephants and stuff going on in the general cacophony. And the reason why I'm telling you this is there are no interruptions in the meditative field. Your thoughts are not interruptions. Your feelings are not interruptions. The mockingbird, I'm pretty sure it's a mockingbird, but I'll have to look. Outside my window is not an interruption. All of these things are part of the meditative process, part of the field of awareness. So this week, last week or 2 weeks ago, I talked about anger and mindfulness and being with anger. And then last week, I talked about forgiveness and a mindful approach to forgiveness. So I'm going to continue with that sort of theme and talk a little bit about redemption this week. And I thought I would go into that by telling one of my favorite stories from the life of the Buddha. So Buddha was in what is now Svasti in northern India. It's a little town in the middle of nowhere. And I can tell you, you have not experienced the middle of nowhere until you've been in the middle of nowhere in somewhere like India. There aren't even roads to some of these places. So he's in Svasti and he's doing his thing of, begging for alms and teaching and wandering in the woods. And he's about to wander into this woods. And the villagers approach him and say, "Don't go there. You can't go there. There's a mass murderer who lives in there. He's killed hundreds of people. The king has sent entire armies after him. He has killed them all. His name is Angulimala. He kills people and then he cuts off their fingers and turns them into a necklace. And he's looking for his 1,000th one because he has 999, and we don't want that to be you." And Buddha essentially bows to thank them for their counsel and continues walking off into the woods. And Angulimala sees him and thinks, wow, the kings have sent armies and mobs and crowds of people to find me, and none of them ever has. And I've killed them all, and now here's this one contemplative monk. What's he supposed to be able to do? I will just run up and kill him too. So Buddha is walking at this very slow, mindful pace. And Angulimala is running as fast as he can to catch him, but can't catch him. And Buddha is just doing this slow, mindful walk. And finally, out of frustration, Angulimala yells, "Buddha, stop!" And Buddha stops and turns around and says, "No, Angulimala, you stop." And Angulimala is stunned by that someone would turn around, face him directly, calmly, with total compassion, and say, "You stop." Buddha said, "I have stopped, now you stop." And Angulimala was confused and said, "What do you mean?" And Buddha said, "I have stopped all harm. Now you must stop all harm." And on the strength of Buddha's compassion, Angulimala essentially falls to his knees and takes refuge in the Buddha and stops harming. And Buddha sits with him and teaches him about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And Angulimala takes up robes and becomes a monk. So time goes by, and Angulimala follows along with Buddha as his attendant on his wandering through the woods and back to the village. And Angulimala is doing what monks did at the time. He's going door to door begging for alms. And he comes upon a house where a woman is struggling in childbirth. It appears to be a breech birth. And he doesn't know how to help her. So he goes to Buddha And he says, I came upon this woman who is struggling in childbirth. I don't know how to help her. And Buddha instructs him to go back to that home and tell them the truth about suffering and non-harming. So Angulimala goes back to this home and tells them the truth about suffering and non-harming. And the child is born. I'm going to get into that a little more in a minute. So time goes by, and Angulimala retakes his former name, which was Nasim, follows Buddha back to the Jeta Grove, which is where the monastery was. Now, monasteries were like open air. I've been to this grove. It's just this big open air field. And word gets back to the king that there is a mass murderer living with the Buddha, and the king has to go back there, and they tell the king, you have to go do something about this guy. So the king takes 500 soldiers on horseback, as far as they can go on horseback, and then by foot to see the Buddha. And he approaches the Buddha. And he says, I hear you have a mass murderer now among your monks. I need to, and the quote in the sutra is, stamp him out. He means to kill him. And Buddha says, well, he's right over there. And then he says, if you knew a man who is now practicing as a monk and a healer and spreading wisdom and peace and healing and compassion, would you kill him? And the king says no. And Buddha says, this is who he is now. Do you still want to kill him? And the king has to think about it for a minute, and then he says no. Because he recognizes that he was somebody who is spreading compassion and healing, and he wants to promote that. And then he said something very interesting. The king said, although Angulimala was once described as an evil one, that is apparently not a permanent part of his identity. He says, it's amazing, Lord Buddha. It's astounding how the Blessed One has tamed the untamed, pacified the unpeaceful, and brought to unbinding those who are unbound. For we could not tame even with blunt and blade weapons, but the Blessed One has tamed without blunt or blade weapons. Now, people who have been coming to these talks that I've been doing since March may remember that I always tie it back to compassion and self-compassion. The key teaching in everything that I talk about is self-compassion, because it's what heals us. And that part of the story, the moral to me of that part of the story is, let's all be gentle. None of us have ever healed anything in our lives by being hard on ourselves. There's a lot of metaphor in the story of Angulimala, and one of them is that there's a spiritual solution for healing, which is the basis of the 12-step programs, that the power of compassion is the power of healing. We all have an inner darkness. Everybody does. from a Jungian point of view, Jung calls it the shadow. We all have a shadow, which is a part of our personalities and ourselves that we don't want to look at or acknowledge. And the more we ignore it, the more it finds other ways of expression. One example of that is in addiction and compulsive behavior. And it is possible to look right at the shadow and heal it. Not by banishing it, not by being hard, not by self-hatred, greed, hate, and delusion, as the Buddhists like to say, but with gentleness and compassion and love. And that is how Buddha healed Angulimala. And that's also how Buddha used Angulimala to heal the king. So the king left Jeddah Grove, went back to his kingdom, and started practicing compassion as a way to rule his kingdom, rather than, as he had stated in his own language, with the blunt and the blade. Angulimala eventually went into seclusion and continued to practice. And he wrote a poem. And a couple of verses from that poem I'll share with you. Who once was heedless and later is not, brightens the world like the moon set free from a cloud. His evil done deed is replaced with skillfulness. He brightens the world like the moon set free from a cloud. There's a line in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a promise. There's a list of promises in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. In other words, replaced with skillfulness, he brightens the world like the moon set free from a cloud. We're all capable of taking our shadow and turn it into something compassionate and healing. And it starts with self-compassion. Because honestly, if all of the being hard on ourselves and beating ourselves up and telling ourselves in ungentle terms that we should be different was ever going to help, it would have helped by now. It would have helped a long time ago. So I'm calling for a different paradigm, a paradigm of gentleness, a paradigm of compassion. Now, I'm not getting into the issues of crime and punishment and retribution and karma that also speak from this story. There are other parts of the story where Angulimala did reap some of the karma. But I'm suggesting that it's a story that suggests mindfulness, compassion, and self-compassion are the path to healing. So I thank you all for listening, and I thank you all for coming this morning. Although nobody actually came, I'm sitting here alone in the room. In what I have come to think of as the Hollywood Squares portion of my life. Any questions or comments about anything we've done today?
I just had a quick question about which of the suttas, is that in the middle discourses, or do you have a?
That is from the Angulimala Sutta, and I got that. The complete Pali Canon is online.
Okay.
translated by a monk in Southern California, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, and it's at accesstoinsight.org.
Great,
And
thanks.
I don't know if I still have that bookmarked in my browser. If I do, I will post the link to that. Yes, I have the Angulimala Sutta